Welcome to the Hot Girl School, the podcast where we redefine confidence and go way beyond the reflection you see in the mirror.
We're your hosts, Lauren and Danielle, here to empower you to embrace your inner radiance because confidence is so much more than looks.
Whether you're strutting into an event or conquering the boardroom, join us as we explore topics like self-love, inner strength, and owning your unique journey to confidence.
So grab your favorite drinkie and turn up that volume because you're about to unleash your true potential.
Welcome back, hotties. Today we are talking about the key to protecting your time and energy. What is it? Boundaries. So, we are going to dive into this topic because it's crucial for protecting your time and energy and your mental space. So, if you've ever found yourself saying yes when you wanted to say no or feeling drained by people or situations, this episode is for you. What's up, my girls?
It is one of the hardest topics, I gotta say. So I'm excited to share with you guys how, like, the little framework that we put together on what are boundaries, how do you discover when and where to set them, and then we're going to have our tangibles for you so you can start implementing right away.
Hell to the yeah. So, boundaries. Wow. Let's start with just breaking down like what is a boundary?
Go for it.
So, a boundary, let's start with the basics, right? So, boundaries are limits we set for ourselves to protect our emotional, physical, and mental well being, period. Right. So, sometimes things happen in life because we aren't honoring our boundaries. Like for me, I know as a recovering people pleaser, I often would say yes to things that I already knew I didn't want to go to. And then I would stress out about how do I get out of that commitment that I made. And then often because I don't like breaking my commitments as a perfectionist, I would go anyway and not have a great time. Right? So it's about protecting really your energy and your well-being. Anything you want to add?
That is the most common and relatable boundary that I think we could use. And just let's ride this example out for every single piece because that is very common. Every single person, no matter who you are, will typically, I would say like 99% of people, they say yes. And then they're wondering, how do I get out of this? And so we want to provide to you how you can do that. I think we both kind of go about that in different ways. So,
Yeah.
do you have any tips on when you were learning how to start setting boundaries?
Yeah, so I think first what I want like what I needed to hear. So I want to give our listeners what I needed to hear when I was struggling with that and it would have been so helpful. So it's really simple. You got to give yourself permission to say no. Right? So you got to say, like, you got to get okay with your one person. You can't show up to everything. You can't be there for everybody. You've got to put yourself first in order to show up as your best self for others. So the thing that I had to get good at was getting comfortable saying no, and to be completely honest, I still struggle with it. Like it's not I have not perfected it in any way, and the perfectionist in me is like, come on, get it together. And I definitely still struggle with it.
And you struggle because it's the like certain people where you're like, like I just don't want to give you my time. Like, where do you struggle? Because I know you don't struggle with the words on what to say, which we will provide you guys different examples of what to say and how to start putting those boundaries into place. But I want to know from you how exactly, like, where is the struggle? Where's the sticky point for
Yeah.
you?
I think the struggle, like, so I am really good in a professional setting at setting boundaries. Like, I do not struggle with boundary setting there. I have got that dialed in. Where I struggle is more in my personal life because I love my people hard. And I want to show up for everybody. I want to be a really good mom. I want to be a really good wife. I want to make sure I'm making one on one time for my husband and one on one time for each of my kids and time together as a family and going to the girls' night and celebrating the birthday and showing up for the event that you plan so that I can celebrate you and you know that I care. And so it's more of like a bandwidth thing. Like, I don't want to say no, but I need to say no. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. My way to relate to that is I used to go literally 3 months straight nonstop with plans every single night, and then I would be
Mhm.
dead for a week. Not only was I dead, but I was very resentful. I was resentful of my social life, which thank God I had one, right? And I had to learn how to stop saying yes to everything because I was exhausted. And like you
Yeah,
said, you can't show up properly for somebody if you're tired, if you're resentful, if you can feel that you have other, maybe more important things to do. I don't care if that's cleaning your house or work or kids. If you have something else that you want to be doing and another place you want to be, it's impossible to show up properly for the person that you're with right now. And
100.
that is where, so for me, it was kind of the maybe opposite? Like, I had to look back and say, "Okay, 3 months out every night doesn't work." And we're not talking about out till 2 in the morning. I'm just talking about usually like a happy hour
Something.
and then a dinner. And then so now I'm out for like 6 hours every day, and it's exhausting. You don't wake up
Yeah.
happy because now
Drained.
it's like my time for myself is gone. So, how do you switch from somebody who's constantly saying yes to everything, especially a social plan? I think it's the easiest to kick the people you don't really care about. They go first.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, it's starting to I don't think like we are not innately taught to set boundaries. We know how we feel about things. So I love this topic because I'm like a my brain works in systems and I'm like, what's my system for boundary setting? Yay. Right? Which is so silly. But nobody really talks about it. Like you don't go through school and they're like, this is how you set a boundary. This is how you stick with a boundary. And so I think it's like it may sound basic, but it's so helpful. I know it's helpful for me when I'm going through it and even now when I'm trying to start a new boundary. So let's talk about like the first step on like how do you set a boundary? Like how do you even discover you need one?
Yes. I didn't know if you had more to add to that, sorry.
No, no. What do you think there?
Like I said, for me, it was in hindsight. I would look back and say, okay, work is slipping because I'm choosing to be more social.
Yeah,
So I need to limit my nights out to 3 a week, 4 a week. And what does that mean? If I only have 4 nights a week, and then I would start scheduling further out. So instead of saying, oh, yeah, are you available tomorrow or on Friday? I would say, are you available in 2 weeks?
sure.
And that would help.
So yeah, so then I think what that means is you start to pay attention to how you're feeling, right? So it starts with asking yourself maybe does this drain my energy or does this energize me? How am I feeling about this? And that's where you start to identify like your own needs and then you build the boundary from there. So in your case, your needs were this isn't sustainable. I'm feeling drained. I can no longer do 6 nights a week. I've got to cut it back to 3 or 4. You identified that you were feeling drained because of the 6 days. And you said, all right, the new system, if you will, is 3 to 4. And then I'm going to see how I feel. And you can adjust the boundaries from there. So, one thing about boundaries is you got to give yourself flexibility to change and adjust them because as humans, hopefully, we're always growing and evolving. And so, the need for boundaries and new boundaries is going to be a practice that you should always have. Like, reevaluate your needs if you need one, if you need to remove one, and things like that. So,
It's
like,
also very easy to slip back into your old ways. Like it might work for a week or two, and then all of a sudden you're slipping back and you're realizing, okay, I'm getting caught up in the way that I used to be, and it's still no longer serving me. So in a way, it's a mirror or it's reinforcing that the decision you made to set the boundary initially does need to be set.
sure. And like I think so it can be really hard to set boundaries, right? They're tough conversations. Maybe you're resistant to like how are they going to respond to this, especially if you're setting them with friends around social gatherings like, "Hey, I can't be your drinking buddy 6 nights a week. I can't be your going out to eat buddy." So it's really important to practice saying them out loud to the people you need the boundary with because what that does is it teaches them how to treat you, and if they aren't going to respect the boundary and to support you on this new thing, then they're maybe not a right fit for the relationship anymore. Right. So getting
Absolutely.
comfortable saying them out loud is going to be really huge for setting the boundaries. What do you think will be so I know for me like sticking to boundaries, you got to have consistency. So let's talk about that a little
I think this is the fumble when you're learning
bit.
anything new. It's not from 0 to 100 and absolutely perfect and, "Okay, I nailed it on the first week." It's the fumble, right? So you're gonna go through, you might slip back into your old self. I've said in previous episodes, I like to play with my words, and for me, that's a super helpful thing. Do I feel more comfortable saying no this way, or do I feel more comfortable saying no that way? And when you can come up with the words that help you and that make the most sense for you, then it's easier. And if you do need to practice, like Danielle said, certainly practice it out loud. It's obviously easier in a text message, but you need to have it kind of prepared so that it comes out naturally. And the other thing is, my mom always said if you say no to an invitation, you do not need to give a reason. And I
Yeah.
loved that. And I think that it's really hard not to do that. But it is true. I'm sorry, I already have plans on Saturday. Not, no, I've had plans for 6 weeks already, blah, blah. Nobody cares.
Over
Like,
explaining.
it's just no. And it's because you feel bad. That's the only
Right.
reason you do that. So,
Right.
learning not to do that and just saying, thank you for the invitation. Saturday doesn't work for me. If you're interested, then you simply reschedule at a time that's more convenient for you, or you try to work out something out. But it doesn't, if you're not interested, you just kind of leave it at that. And I don't
Yeah.
think you need to take it any further.
No, I think that's great. I mean, it's a great way to decline an invitation, right? And I think that your thermostat, if you will, is like I like to say all the time, will I respect myself more or less by doing this? And that's kind of one of my practices to recognize like, do I need to enforce a boundary here? Or, is this going to energize me? Am I going to respect myself more? Like maybe an event pops up where I have an opportunity to learn a new skill or make a new friend that I've been trying to connect with on that level and it wasn't in my schedule, it was last minute. Well, I might give up something because of the opportunity there, but by using that question, will I respect myself more or less? It helps me to remain consistent with enforcing my boundaries. And I think too what else helps is kind of giving yourself a pat on the back when you do enforce the boundaries. Like the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like anything, it's habit stacking, right? But being proud of yourself for remaining consistent with your boundaries is going to give you the confidence to continue to do it and give you something to anchor to when you're feeling the struggle of enforcing a boundary.
Oh, yeah. The consistency is key. And that's why you're not going to nail it the first time. And having the ability to understand how to change it, that you need to change it, those all play into this. The other thing that I've noticed in my life and other friends is like this idea of no days off. Here in
Yeah.
Miami, there's quite a few billboards around. I don't know, it must be an energy drink or something. And it's the logo is like no days off. And I lived like that for so long. It wears you out, it drains you. You don't really enjoy anything anymore because you're just going nonstop.
Yeah.
And yes, that works, but it doesn't work if you have a family or you're in a relationship or you have friends or like you can't do that. Like you need to be able to give yourself the grace to have a reset day. And I
Mhm.
think that that's a boundary in and of itself is to say, okay, if you're going to time block or if you just set a date with yourself once a month, once a week, whatever it is, and starting to practice forms of softness with yourself to allow starting the boundary setting with yourself. Like, okay, I
Sure.
said that I was not going to be on my phone tonight past 7 p.m. It's 8:30 and I'm still on my phone. Can
Yep.
this wait till tomorrow? Yes. The answer is yes. Nobody's gonna die. That's my rule. Nobody's gonna die.
Yeah, we're not brain surgeons. It's going to be fine. No, I love that. I think that it's something that we should probably touch on because, especially if you're new to setting boundaries or you've been wanting to set a boundary, you're aware of it, you know you need it, but you haven't enforced it yet. It's really important to know that you're going to be challenged on it more likely than not because the people in your life who are used to you not having that boundary, they're getting something from you by you not keeping that boundary with yourself. So, sometimes when we are trying to up level or make a difference or evolve, change, make some positive changes for ourselves, it can be challenging and feel lonely because people are going to push back on it. So that just means that situation or that person isn't as aligned with you as maybe you thought. So it's a good time to reevaluate like boundaries as a whole with that person if they're constantly pushing back. Like for example, I am not drinking a ton right now, not because I'm just not drinking, I just don't feel like it. So, if I tell a friend, like, I show up because I'm not gonna text them and be like, "Hey, I'm not drinking." I'm still gonna go. I'm fun without alcohol. So, I'm gonna show up, but if they're pushing back and be like, "Come on, please," and I'm like, "No, I'm just not doing it right now. I feel better without it," and they're still pushing back, that drains me. That doesn't make me want to continue to hang out, right? So, finding people that respect your boundaries too is super important, and know that, like, the challenges are gonna be there. People are gonna push back a little bit.
It also shows you what they think of you, right? Like maybe they think that they can always get from you what they wanted, which is kind of what you said earlier. But it also shows that they consider themselves more important because they're going to keep poking the bear for you to have that drink. Hey, just have the drink. Hey, just have the
Yeah.
drink. And if they don't respect you, I think that's a mental note for yourself. Okay, I thought we were good friends. You're trying to make me do something that I already told you I don't want to do. So now you've become a drinking friend, or now you've become a whatever it is. And I'm going to
Yep.
place you in a different category in my life. And when you remove that person from your life, you now have space for somebody new to show up, and new friendships will start to form that are going to be aligning with the new person that you are.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, the number one thing that we're saying with examples, right, is how you stick to your boundaries is by being consistent with them, right? Would you say that's the case?
This is no days off.
Right?
No days off of boundary setting.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. That's truly, right?
That's a practice that you need to put into place. It is so important to have boundaries, and quite frankly, it becomes, I don't wanna say addictive, but it becomes fun. It's kinda like negotiating, like, once you have a hang of it, it's easier to implement, and you're like, "Okay," your gut reaction to how you respond to that person is how you truly feel. So if somebody asks you to
Yep.
hang out on Saturday night and you're like, "Ugh, I don't wanna go out Saturday night." Or maybe it's like, "Ugh, I don't really like you." Okay, let's sit down together, me, myself, and I, and have a conversation like, how do we get out of this? And you can postpone, you can reschedule, or you can, what I was told, to give that person a very specific day and time slot that they can fit themselves into. And if that one
Mhm.
specific day and time slot works for them, then okay, I'll see you, right? So maybe if you know they have a 9 to 5, you say like, "Hey, I'm only available on a Friday at 10:45 a.m. for coffee." Like, you know they're at work and they can't go. And it's like, "Sorry," like it can be kind of set it up so that like, "Hey, try to get the picture that like I'm not really interested in seeing you." I know that's not the nicest way to go about it, but it kind of avoids like the, I don't know, your
Well,
time you
and
can't get it
that may
back.
be that's a really good strategy for someone who maybe isn't great with confrontation, right? Like somebody
Okay.
who
Yeah.
really stresses or struggles and they're like, "I just can't handle the confrontation." That's an amazing strategy. If you're down with the confrontation, like me, then you're probably like, "I can just face it head on." And so I think that it just depends on the person, because my strategies don't work for everybody. Like, we're all different, right? So the
Mhm.
reason we connect with people is because we're like, yeah, that makes sense. She's talking to me. And for me, and like friendship breakups or things like that, it's two different things. It's is does the do you have enough respect for the friendship? Was it a big enough friendship in your life that it warrants a conversation? And if so, you should have the conversation and you should talk to them about, "Hey, this is the new path that I'm on. Explain the boundaries that you've set for yourself and why. I'm trying to level up. I'm trying to be a better mom. When I go out, I'll use drinking as an example. When I go out and get drunk with you on a Wednesday, I'm a shitty person the next day. And I don't want to be that shitty person anymore. So I want to still have our hangouts, but I can't do it with the alcohol." And if they support that, great. The friendship can carry on. It carried the weight that you thought that it did because you sat down and had the conversation. But some people, you might be like, "You know what? Like, I have been feeling this gut feeling for a while when I get the text, like you said, and you're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with them." That might be a like, "Bless you. I wish you the best." And you kind of just let it coast, right? And you just create the distance by like not reaching out a ton and doing maybe some of those techniques. And I think you just have to figure out what works. So if you don't love confrontation, that's a great strategy. If you're down with the confrontation, clearly state the boundary. And if they like it, great, you carry on. If they don't, bye bye. Right.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't warrant a conversation, just kind of let it coast.
Yeah, I agree. No need to reach out if you're not interested, and they won't reach out if they're not interested. So therefore, it just kind of ends
Hey, you were on
naturally.
the same page. Congratulations, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
that sometimes happens too. So, I think let's do like a little recap because boundaries are they're so important in so many aspects of our life. So, if we had to give you like 3 things that are going to help you with setting boundaries and keeping boundaries, I would say that they are start small, right? So start with the small wins, consistency, and then using statements of I. Like I need this because. What do you think?
I like that. I like that. Yeah, saying you never works out well for anyone. It feels accusatory. So if you can just keep it in the I form, see where they stand, and then you know where you stand and how you can move forward depending on their reaction to you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So remember then that the boundaries aren't necessarily about pushing people away. It's about creating space for what truly matters to you, protecting your energy, protecting your vibe, your mental state, and boundaries are healthy. The more boundaries you have, truly the healthier you are.
we are
So
excited to meet the new you.
yeah, let us know. If you're struggling, like reach out. We have a ton of fun frameworks. We're definitely not perfect at this by any stretch. So if you have good ones, share them with us too. But we have some fun, like how to say certain things. And we love connecting with you. So hit us up in the DMs and let's have a chat. Ta ta,
Happy,
hotties.
yeah, happy boundary setting.